Why passion fades in relationships. Speech. Passion doesn't usually disappear overnight. It fades quietly, slowly, and often without people realizing why. In the beginning of a relationship, passion feels intense, effortless, and consuming. There's excitement, constant desire, and a sense of emotional urgency. Many people believe this intensity is what love is supposed to feel like forever. But psychology tells a different story. Early passion is driven by novelty, uncertainty, and dopamine. The brain is stimulated by what is new and unpredictable. As familiarity grows, the nervous system calms down. The relationship feels safer, more stable, and less intense. This shift is natural, but it's often misunderstood as something going wrong. When people don't understand this transition, they panic. They assume the relationship is dying, attraction is gone, or love has faded. In reality, passion isn't disappearing. It's changing. The problem is that many couples don't know how to adapt to this change. Another reason passion fades is emotional disconnection. When unresolved conflicts, unmet needs, or unspoken resentments build up, emotional distance grows. Desire struggles to survive where emotional tension lives. Even strong attraction can't override a nervous system that feels unsafe or unheard. Routine also plays a role. When relationships become predictable without emotional depth or curiosity, passion loses fuel. Passion needs emotional engagement, not chaos, but not boredom either. It thrives when partners continue to see each other as evolving individuals, not fixed roles. Performance pressure can also kill passion. When sex or intimacy becomes an obligation, a way to maintain the relationship, or a measure of self-worth, desire shuts down. Passion cannot exist where there is pressure to perform. Finally, many people chase passion instead of building intimacy. Passion is a spark. Intimacy is the firewood. Without emotional closeness, trust, and presence, the spark has nothing to burn on. Passion doesn't fade because relationships fail. It fades when relationships don't grow. 5 key points of the speech. 1. Passion fades as novelty and dopamine decrease. 2, 3, emotional disconnection weakens desire. 4, 5, routine without emotional depth dulls attraction. 6, 7, pressure and performance reduce intimacy. 8, 9, passion evolves when intimacy replaces intensity. 10, key point 1, passion fades as novelty and dopamine decrease. In the early stages of a relationship, passion feels intense, effortless, and almost overwhelming. You think about the other person constantly. Small interactions feel exciting. Physical closeness feels electric. This stage is powered largely by dopamine, the brain chemical responsible for motivation, reward, and anticipation. Dopamine thrives on novelty, uncertainty, and emotional stimulation. At the beginning, everything is new. You don't fully know the other person yet. There's mystery in how they'll respond, what they're thinking, and where the relationship is going. This uncertainty keeps the brain alert and excited. Passion feels alive because the mind is constantly anticipating reward. But dopamine is not designed for permanence. As familiarity increases, the brain adapts. What once felt new becomes predictable. The nervous system no longer needs to stay on high alert. Dopamine levels naturally decrease, not because attraction is gone, but because the brain has learned the pattern. This is a healthy neurological shift, but it often feels confusing to people who expect passion to stay the same forever. Many people interpret this drop in intensity as loss of love. In reality, it's a transition from excitement to safety. The relationship begins moving from a reward-based system to an attachment-based system. Instead of craving, the nervous system seeks comfort, trust, and stability. The problem is that modern culture romanticizes dopamine-driven passion. Movies, social media, and dating narratives teach us that intense desire equals true love. When intensity fades, people assume something is wrong. This misunderstanding leads many couples to chase novelty instead of building depth. Some people try to recreate dopamine by introducing drama, emotional distance, or conflict. Others seek validation outside the relationship. These behaviors may temporarily spike excitement, but they weaken emotional security and long-term intimacy. Without understanding this process, couples may abandon relationships that were actually entering a more meaningful phase. Passion wasn't dying. It was asking to evolve. When novelty fades, passion must be fueled differently. Emotional intimacy, curiosity, shared growth, and vulnerability become the new sources of desire. Passion becomes quieter, but deeper. Less urgent, but more grounded. Understanding dopamine helps normalize the experience. Passion fading doesn't mean the relationship failed. It means the brain is ready for a more sustainable form of connection. The real danger isn't losing dopamine. It's never learn. What comes next? Key point 2, emotional disconnection weakens desire. Passion struggles to survive where emotional connection is broken. While novelty and chemistry may spark attraction, emotional closeness is what sustains desire over time. When emotional disconnection enters a relationship, passion doesn't vanish suddenly. It erodes gradually, often without either partner realizing the cause. Emotional disconnection usually begins with unmet needs. When partners feel unheard, misunderstood, or emotionally neglected, small emotional ruptures form. These ruptures may seem minor at first, but when they are not addressed, they accumulate. Over time, emotional distance grows and desire quietly withdraws. The nervous system plays a critical role here. Sexual desire requires a sense of emotional safety. When unresolved conflicts, criticism, or emotional withdrawal become part of the relationship, the nervous system shifts into self-protection. Even if physical attraction remains, the body resists vulnerability. Desire cannot flourish in a state of emotional threat. Many couples continue living side by side while emotionally drifting apart. Conversations become practical instead of meaningful. Affection becomes routine instead of intentional. Emotional curiosity fades. This emotional flatness drains passion because desire thrives on emotional engagement, not just proximity. Resentment is one of the most damaging forms of emotional disconnection. When feelings are suppressed instead of expressed, resentment builds quietly. Over time, resentment creates emotional walls. Physical closeness may still exist, but emotional openness disappears. Desire fades because the heart is no longer fully available. Another contributor to emotional disconnection is emotional invalidation. When a partner's feelings are dismissed, minimized, or ignored, trust weakens. Feeling emotionally unseen reduces intimacy. People begin to protect themselves by withdrawing emotionally, and desire follows. Emotional connection also requires repair. Conflict itself doesn't kill passion. Unresolved conflict does. When disagreements are avoided or left unresolved, emotional tension lingers. This tension interferes with desire because the nervous system cannot relax into intimacy. Rebuilding emotional connection requires presence, listening, and empathy. When partners feel emotionally understood and valued, desire has space to return. Emotional safety invites vulnerability, and vulnerability fuels intimacy. Passion is not just about attraction. It's about access to each other's emotional world. When that access closes, desire fades. When it reopens, passion has a chance to grow again. Emotional connection is not optional for desire. It is essential. Key point 3. Routine without emotional depth dulls attraction. Routine itself is not the enemy of passion. Emotional stagnation is. Every long-term relationship naturally develops routines, shared schedules, familiar habits, predictable patterns. These routines provide stability and comfort, but when routine replaces emotional depth, attraction slowly loses its energy. Attraction thrives on engagement, not chaos. Many people mistakenly believe passion requires constant excitement or unpredictability. In reality, passion fades when partners stop emotionally engaging with each other as evolving individuals. When routines become mechanical, disconnected, partners begin to feel like roommates rather than lovers. Emotional depth means curiosity. It means continuing to ask questions, notice changes, and stay mentally and emotionally invested in who your partner is becoming. When curiosity fades, partners stop seeing each other fully. Familiarity turns into assumption. Instead of discovery, there is repetition, and repetition without meaning dulls desire. Routine becomes harmful when interactions lose intention. Conversations revolve around logistics rather than emotions. Affection becomes habitual instead of expressive. Time together is shared physically but not emotionally. This creates emotional flatness, which drains attraction even if love still exists. Psychologically, desire responds to aliveness. When partners feel emotionally engaged, listened to, understood, and valued, the brain remains stimulated. Emotional depth creates novelty through understanding, not mystery through distance. It allows partners to feel seen again, even in familiarity. Without emotional depth, routine can feel suffocating. People may begin associating the relationship with boredom or emotional numbness. This doesn't mean they don't love their partner. It means the relationship has stopped feeding their emotional system. Some people try to fix this by chasing external novelty, new people, distractions, or fantasy, but novelty without connection only creates temporary stimulation. Emotional depth, on the other hand, renews attraction from within the relationship. Reintroducing emotional depth requires intention. This includes meaningful conversations, emotional check-ins, shared growth, and vulnerability. It means choosing presence over autopilot. When partners emotionally show up for each other, routine becomes a container for intimacy rather than a barrier to passion. Attraction doesn't die from predictability, it fades from emotional neglect. When routine is paired with emotional depth, passion doesn't disappear. It evolves into something quieter, steadier, and more resilient. The goal is not to escape routine, but to fill it with meaning. Key point 4. Unspoken resentment quietly erodes desire. Passion doesn't usually disappear suddenly. It erodes slowly under the weight of unspoken resentment. Many relationships look stable on the surface while emotional tension builds underneath. Small disappointments, unmet needs, and ignored feelings don't vanish, they accumulate. Over time, this emotional buildup quietly shuts down desire. Resentment forms when one partner feels consistently unseen, unheard, or unappreciated. When emotions are not expressed safely or are repeatedly dismissed, the nervous system learns to protect itself. Instead of leaning in emotionally or physically, people begin to withdraw. This withdrawal is not a lack of love. It is emotional self-defense. Sexual desire is deeply connected to emotional safety. When resentment is present, the body often resists intimacy, even if the mind wants it. The body remembers emotional injuries. Touch may begin to feel tense, obligatory, or emotionally unsafe. As a result, passion fades not because attraction is gone, but because unresolved emotion blocks connection. One of the most damaging aspects of resentment is silence. Many people avoid difficult conversations to keep the peace, but peace built on suppression is fragile. When feelings remain unspoken, they don't disappear. They turn into emotional distance. That distance shows up in reduced affection, irritability, or avoidance of intimacy. Psychologically, desire requires openness. Resentment closes people off. It narrows emotional availability and replaces warmth with guardedness. Even small acts of intimacy can feel loaded when resentment is present because intimacy requires vulnerability and resentment makes vulnerability feel risky. Over time, resentment changes how partners perceive each other. Instead of seeing intention, people see threat. Instead of feeling connection, they feel obligation. This shift makes passion difficult to access because desire thrives in emotional generosity, not emotional debt. Resentment also creates a power imbalance. One partner may feel they are always giving while the other is taking. This imbalance kills attraction because desire cannot flourish where fairness and mutual respect feel broken. Erotic energy depends on equality, on feeling chosen, not used. The solution is not blame, but expression. Addressing resentment requires emotional honesty without attack. It means naming feelings before they harden. When resentment is spoken in a safe and respectful way, it often dissolves into understanding rather than conflict. Healthy relationships make room for discomfort. They allow partners to say, "This hurt me," without fear of punishment or dismissal. When resentment is processed instead of buried, emotional closeness returns, and with it, desire. Passion doesn't fade because people argue too much. It fades because they stop telling the truth. Key point 5, losing individual identity weakens attraction, one of the most overlooked. reasons passion fades in relationships is the gradual loss of individual identity. In the early stages of love, two whole people come together, each with their own interests, values, goals, and inner worlds. That individuality is part of what creates attraction. But over time, many relationships unconsciously move from connection to fusion, and desire quietly suffers. When partners stop nurturing their own identities, they stop bringing freshness into the relationship. Life becomes shared, but not expanded. Conversations shrink. Energy flattens. The relationship starts feeding on itself rather than being fueled by two evolving individuals. Passion doesn't respond well to emotional sameness. It responds to vitality. Psychologically, attraction requires polarity. Polarity doesn't mean conflict. It means difference. It's the tension between two distinct people choosing each other. When identities blur, that tension fades. Partners begin to feel overly familiar, predictable, and emotionally merged. Love may remain, but desire struggles to breathe. Many people confuse closeness with constant togetherness. They sacrifice personal interests, friendships, ambitions, and even opinions to maintain harmony. While this may reduce conflict in the short term, it slowly erodes attraction. When someone stops standing firmly in who they are, they become less emotionally compelling. Desire is drawn to presence. Presence comes from self-connection. A partner who is engaged with their own growth, passions, and purpose naturally brings energy into the relationship. They don't rely on the relationship to give them meaning. They share meaning with their partner. That dynamic keeps attraction alive. Losing identity can also create quiet resentment. One partner may feel they've given up more of themselves than the other. This imbalance affects desire because attraction thrives on mutual respect and admiration. It's hard to desire someone you feel you've shrunk yourself for, or someone who has shrunk themselves for you. Healthy relationships allow space without fear. Space is not distance, it's oxygen. It allows partners to miss each other, appreciate each other, and rediscover each other. When individuality is respected, reunions feel charged rather than routine. Reclaiming identity doesn't mean pulling away emotionally. It means reconnecting with what makes you you. Hobbies, goals, creativity, friendships, and personal growth all feed the relationship indirectly. When partners grow separately, they come back together with new energy, stories, and perspectives. Passion doesn't fade because people grow apart. It fades when people stop growing at all. The strongest relationships are built by two complete individuals who choose each other. Not because they need each other to feel whole, but because together they feel more alive. Conclusion, why passion fades, and how it can be revived. Passion fading in a relationship is not a sign of failure. It's a signal. It tells us that something deeper is asking for attention. Passion doesn't disappear because love is gone. It fades when emotional needs go unmet, when curiosity stops, when resentment stays unspoken, and when individuality is slowly lost. These shifts happen quietly, often without intention, and that's why so many couples feel confused when desire changes. What's important to understand is that passion is not meant to stay the same forever. It evolves. Early passion is driven by novelty and intensity, but lasting passion is built through emotional safety, honesty, presence, and mutual growth. When couples stop seeing passion as something automatic and start seeing it as something nurtured, everything changes. Every relationship goes through seasons. There are times of closeness and times of distance, times of intensity and times of calm. The danger is not in these cycles, it's in ignoring them. When partners are willing to reflect, communicate, and grow both individually and together, passion doesn't disappear. It transforms into something deeper, steadier, and more meaningful. Reviving passion doesn't require becoming someone new. It requires becoming more real, more emotionally available, more self-connected, and more willing to speak the truth. Passion returns when people feel safe to be seen, chosen, and valued again. In the end, lasting desire is not about chasing excitement. It's about creating a relationship where emotional depth, respect, and individuality are protected. When those foundations are strong, passion doesn't fade. It matures. Thank you, and goodbye note for YouTube. Thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If this video helped you understand relationships and desire on a deeper level, I truly appreciate you being here. If you found value, in this conversation, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more content on love, attraction, and relationship psychology. Until next time, take care of your emotional world, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.